The choice to put my dad in a nursing home was one of the hardest decisions that I've ever had to make. I tried to put it off as long as possible, but my dad's health has been on a steady decline since we had lost Mom a couple of years back. He was a stubborn, fiercely independent individual who had spent a tough life growing up in farm country, and just the thought of spending one night in an old folks' home, as he would put it, made him speak with a special kind of anger that I rarely got to witness anymore. "No fucking way." That would be his usual response in his old grouchy voice, just before he'd spit saliva on the ground in front of my shoes. Dad had dealt with bouts of shortness of breath and anxiety, and it was his last trip to the hospital that seemed to convince him to flip his decision about the whole thing. I got the call while I was at work in the middle of my shift. My supervisor was gracious enough to let me clock out early, and thanks to my speeding down the highway, I was there in 20 minutes. The social worker at the hospital came in to talk to us about getting support at home for Dad. She wasn't the usual one that I'd known from Dad's previous visits, but she seemed nice enough. Like before, Dad managed to blurt out his usual response while he was struggling to breathe with a nasal cannula tube in his nose. "No fucking way." I was expecting the social worker to respond when my dad spoke up again, surprising both of us with what he had said next. And it was like a switch had been flipped. "I don't want to go back home." I can honestly say that we were both in shock. This man, who had been fighting with me tooth and nail for 2 years about getting any kind of assistance, just declared that he was surrendering. Dad went on to say that this last incident was an eye-opener for him, but he later admitted, with tears forming in his eyes, that above all else, he was lonely. He had tried to fill the void that Mom had left when she passed by drinking and spending time with all his tractors. But in the end, he couldn't make it work, and was too proud to admit just how lonely he had become. He was a man's man after all, and I knew how hard letting all this out was for him. And the social worker at the hospital gave us a brochure for a new place that had opened up in the area. Sunnyside Retirement Center. Better than living at home. I was a bit taken aback by the slogan. I had to admit, though, that it was bold, and the pictures in the brochure looked incredible. I had showed it to Dad. He stared at it for the longest time before saying anything. And he spoke again without swearing at us. "Okay, I'll give it a chance." I silently thanked God and smiled. The social worker said that she would work on setting up a tour and start the admission paperwork right away. I studied the brochure for some time as Dad took a nap. I recognized the address as it was in the area that I passed every day along a highway on my way to work. I realized that I had never noticed anything there before. What hit me as even more strange was that I always remembered the area as an empty open field. No structure of any kind had been there for years. It was basically a large empty concrete lot. I know construction jobs go a lot quicker these days, but not that fast, right? Something about this troubled me, and I suddenly had a lot of questions. But the social worker had disappeared before I could ask. I guess we'll soon find out more soon. Dad should get out of here tomorrow. We'll go for a tour then. I knew Dad would be a very hard sell about being placed anywhere. We had done it for Mom in her later years at a nursing home in town. It had been the only place taking admissions in the area at the time, but I always hated going there. It smelled like piss as soon as you walked in the door, and the staff didn't give a shit about anything else besides yapping and playing on their phones, and Mom would always seem so sad. She had been diagnosed with dementia, and the two of them just couldn't make it work at home, so we felt like she had no choice. Sometimes it seemed like she didn't even recognize us. So you could imagine my surprise when the social worker at the hospital gave us a brochure for a new place that had opened in the area. My surprise to Dad's reaction. After helping Dad into the car, we were on our way. I had made sure to pack some of his clothes and farming magazines that he liked to look at. And he saw the bag and muttered, "Did you pack my whiskey too?" "Somehow I don't think that that'll be allowed. And besides, you said that you would give this a chance." He mumbled something that I couldn't make out, and soon after we had arrived. Now, I have to say, the look of the building took my breath away a little bit. The landscaping was immaculate, with small shrubs and trees lining the outside with a large water fountain positioned near the front entrance. We pulled up under a huge awning to double sliding glass doors. "It's like a casino." Dad hadn't sworn yet, so I was taking this as a good sign. We were met by a representative of the facility, Susan. She was dressed very professionally, wearing a gray skirt and a blouse with a matching gray jacket. Her perfectly white teeth had showed whenever she smiled. And we went on the tour, seeing the apartments, the exercise room, lounge areas, and the dining room. I couldn't quite read how Dad was taking in everything, but I was sold. Bright lighting everywhere, laminate floors, and fully furnished private apartments. And in the end, Dad had said that he liked it, and we ended that day by moving him into room 215. I never did get a chance to ask about how seemingly quick the place had gone up overnight. And the next few days went by pretty uneventful. I talked to Dad for a bit on the phone every day, and he would tell me about the transition and how it was going pretty well so far. He had hit it off a bit with another man there named Bill. Hearing all of this made me so happy. I really wanted this to work for Dad. Soon after, though, our conversations began to shift to a darker one. The first time I noticed something was off was when I called Dad to talk. We had set a time each day so he would be ready for my call. And when I asked how he was doing, he almost sounded nervous to me as he stuttered. Now's not a good time, John. I need to go. His answer perplexed me completely. Dad, is something wrong? I thought everything was going well so far. And for a moment, there was nothing but silence. I could hear Dad's breath getting heavy. Dad, are you there? He responded, but this time it seemed like he was whispering into the phone. John, I shouldn't talk over the phone. They might be listening in. I tried to ask him who, but all he said next was that I needed to get up here so we could talk more. I made the drive as soon as I got off work, and when I got to my dad's room, he had the door locked. Finally, after convincing him to let me in, he quickly shut the door, redoing the lock. And over the next hour, we sat in his living room, and I listened as his words spilled out. He told me that strange things had been happening since his third night here. Dad said that he had been hearing people skulking around outside his apartment door at night. They were communicating in some bizarre-sounding language. Now, I knew that Dad was still pretty sharp for his age, so I didn't instantly believe it was some kind of delusion. As for the unknown language, I surmised that maybe some of the staff who worked here at night were foreign and hadn't quite picked up English yet. Dad dismissed the notion. He said that the sounds that they made when they spoke was unlike anything that he had ever heard before. Almost animal-like, he had said. And I looked at him and I could see how genuinely scared he was by all of this. He also told me that he had seen lights flashing outside of his windows at night. Not ambulance lights like you might expect at a retirement center, but just seemingly random white lights. I didn't ask if he ever peeked through the blinds to see what they actually were. The expression on his face had told me enough. And I left later that night after Dad had ate dinner and got ready for bed. I told him that I would look into what he had told me. But honestly, I didn't know what to believe. This all could be some form of mental trauma from the move. So maybe Dad just needed more time to make the adjustment. I had to get up early to work the next day, so I just put the last few hours into the back of my mind as I drifted off to sleep. And the next morning, while I was getting ready for work, I saw that I had a voicemail from Dad. I had kept the phone on silent, so I never heard it ring. And instantly, I was worried. I listened to the voicemail, and what I had heard was maybe the most horrific thing that I have ever experienced. They got Bill. Jesus Christ, John, they came and they took him last night. I could hear him begging them to stop. Then all of a sudden it was silent and the lights came back. John, get me out of here. Help me. I replayed the message that Dad had left several times. I was forced to hold the phone away from my ears as it sounded like he was screaming. I didn't know what to do. If I was going to call off work, it would have to be now. If Dad had been showing signs of a mental breakdown, I would have thought that someone like Sunnyside would have called me. And in the end, I decided to go to work and stop by to see Dad afterward. I wish that I had taken Dad more seriously. The whole day, I felt like an awful son. I know Dad was having a hard time with the transition. Even the social worker from the hospital told us that it would take some time. I checked my phone a few more times. No more messages from Dad and no messages from Sunnyside. My guess was that Dad had probably come to his senses. I would see him later anyway to hear all about it. I had left work and I arrived at Sunnyside around dinner time. I went to Dad's room. room 215. But Dad wasn't there. In fact, his whole apartment had been cleaned out, furniture and all. I went to the dining room and he wasn't there either. And at this point, my heart was beginning to pound in my chest. I went to the nurse's station by Dad's room and inquired if he had been moved to another room. The nurse on duty smiled and said that she didn't know who I was talking about. I demanded to see my father, pounding my clenched fist on the desk counter, and then I heard a voice from behind me. I recognized it as Susan's, the woman that we had met on our initial arrival. I didn't even hear her walk up behind me. And as she smiled at me with those pearly whites, wearing the same exact outfit as before, a gray skirt and a gray jacket. "Hello, John. Wonderful to see you again. Can I help you with something?" "Where the fuck is my dad? I got a voicemail from him last night. He sounded absolutely terrified. And now it's like he's vanished. Where is he?" I stepped towards her as I noticed several of the facility's employees had already begun to step towards me, encircling me, in fact. "Come with me, John. I'll show you where your dad is." And we made our way towards the main dining room where Dad usually ate his meals. Susan entered first and then beckoned me in. The other staff were still following us like they had all stopped working for this moment. The tables were mostly filled, a few random seats still empty. "So where is he? I swear if you people have done something to him, I'll..." I was interrupted by Susan, who had just walked over to one of the food carts, picked up a plate, and brought it back to me. She held it up to me. It looked like roast beef with some other vegetables. "Okay, so what? I'm gonna ask you one more time before I call the cops." "Here's your dad." Susan held the plate up a bit higher to her face, closed her eyes, and inhaled deeply. Smells so delicious." My mind had to catch up to what she was indicating. "No, that's not possible. You couldn't have. That's murder." "Oh, but we had to, John. Your dad was a problem for us. He chose not to join us, so we had to take certain measures." And I stood there for what seemed like an hour, staring at the plate of steaming meat. The plate now sitting down on the table, the chunk of meat was still bleeding. I then looked back at Susan, at all of them. I wish that I could forget what I saw next. All the residents sitting at the dining room table stood up at once from their tables, pushing their chairs in and walked towards us. And in a moment, I was completely surrounded as Susan turned to one of the other workers and said 2 words. "Show him." The worker lifted up her skirt to reveal her bare stomach and what looked like something pulsating just beneath the skin's surface. It looked like a large mass trying to push its way through to the surface. I then watched in stunned silence as the mass traveled up her chest and into her neck, causing it to bulge and retract. "My God, what the hell are you?" All of them began to twist their bodies in sickly and disturbing ways, their skin stretching with masses pushing up just below the surface. All except for Susan. She just continued to stare and smile at me intently. You monsters! Dad was right! You killed the other guy too, didn't you? Did you eat him?" "Oh, Bill. Yes. Well, he was also a problem. He tasted more like what you would call pork, though. Not our first choice of meat." I couldn't take it anymore. This wasn't happening. I watched as Susan raised her hand and the withering crowd snapped back to human form. And the residents took their seats and began to devour their meals greedily. They were eating what was left of my dad. I hit my end and everything went black. And I woke up in my home, having no clue how I had gotten there. I immediately found my phone next to me and was preparing to dial 911 when I found a piece of paper next to the phone. There was a note written. "Dear John, I'm sorry that you had to see all of that last night. We hadn't planned on revealing ourselves yet to your people. And yes, just in case you're wondering, it was all real. We are real. Don't waste your time calling the authorities. We have infiltrated and watch, ready in case any more problems should arise. Accept what happened and move on. We cannot be stopped. Our takeover cannot be stopped.
Sincerely, Susan, Director of Sunnyside Retirement Center. Better than living at home.
So now you know what I know. These things are here, and I don't know how many of them there are or where they all are. How can I live with myself knowing that innocent people are being slaughtered or worse and not do anything about it? And it gets worse. I looked up Sunnyside Retirement Center online this morning, just out of curiosity. There's not just one of them. They are a nationwide company. Over 500 locations in the US already, and more of them are being planned soon. And they're all taking applications for new residents. God, help us all. Have you ever hated yourself? And I'm not talking about minor frustrations with your character. I'm talking about really fucking hating yourself. When you just bubble up inside with the most venomous self-loathing madness to the point where you maybe inflict self-harm, consider suicide, or maybe even try to kill yourself. Hopefully not many of you have experienced that. Anxiety is a bitch. That's usually how it starts. It's an unsuspecting shadow that creeps up on you and begins to swing at your psyche with a big old barbed wire baseball bat. And each time it connects, it rips a chunk out of you. Small ones at first. But then the flesh begins to weaken and the damage gets greater with every swing. And once the beating begins, it can be impossible to stop. Soon, you're curled up on your bed, on the floor, or in the bathroom, weeping your eyes out and hating yourself. Really hating yourself. Or at least, that's usually how I end up. Why do I have to be like this? Why do I have to think the things that I do? Why can't I control my own thoughts? Why am I constantly drawn to the negative? Why can't I be stronger? Why am I such a fucking weakling? Like I said, the anxiety inevitably turns to self-loathing, and then the really bad shit starts coming. The hatred. The desire to feel something, anything beyond the crippling despair. And suddenly you're looking in the mirror with a razor blade in your hand, eyes ablaze with desperation. I don't think that I've ever actually tried to kill myself. But I've come close. The thoughts are there. And they are beautiful in that moment. And that's what makes them so dangerous. When you're sunk to the bottom, surrounded by the acid of your own poisonous thoughts. Death has an appeal that cannot be understood by someone on the outside. I've undergone these tortures. And I'm deeply ashamed of them. I don't wear my weakness proudly, like some do. I don't tote my imperfections so that others may sympathize. Please don't sympathize. Don't feel empathy for me. That'll only make things worse. I'm pathetic. Scoff if you want. But don't empathize with me. I'd rather you damn me for being an emotional wreck. I can take it. I get it. Not everyone is like this. It's often viewed as immature, attention-seeking, or just plain weak. And maybe it is. Who knows? Who knows why we are the way that we are? So who gives a fuck, right? Boo-hoo, poor me. What's this got to do with anything, right? Well, unfortunately, this has to do with everything. And the body of Black and Gold. I paced my living room, hand absently tapping my leg. My mind was racing, and it was bad. I knew it was bad, but the cork had been removed hours ago. What was she doing right now? Who was she talking to? Was she thinking about me? Did she ever think about me? I stopped pacing and I checked my phone, and it stared back at me blankly. I huffed a frustrated sigh and I started pacing again. I knew I needed to stop, knew that I needed to calm down, but I just couldn't. It was deep into tonight. It doesn't matter. You know it doesn't matter, I growled suddenly. Who the hell cares? You know that she loves you. And I did know. Sophia loved me unconditionally. She was wonderful, the best girlfriend that I could ever have dreamed of. And she didn't deserve my paranoid insecurities. She didn't deserve to hear them, see them, or even know they existed. This was my own shit, concocted by an emotionally abused mind. And I would be goddamned if I let it ruin our wonderful relationship. And yet the disease persisted. Some days were worse than others. Tonight it was worse. And I sat down on my couch and I gripped my phone with both hands. Stop thinking about her, I hissed. Stop thinking about what she's doing. You're going insane. And I looked down at my phone. No, I whispered. Don't text her either. You're going to sound desperate and weak. Sophia was a fairly recent addition to my life. A beautiful, smart, amazing addition. We had started to date a couple of months ago and I had fallen hopelessly in love since. Things were perfect with her. Things were incredible. She was funny and smart and gorgeous, motivated and incredibly compassionate. The complete opposite of the nightmare ex that had instilled and imprinted this awful anxiety and paranoia I now hosted. The creeping feeling that something would go wrong. Something had to go wrong. Things always went wrong. And what would I do then? How would it make me feel? How would I react? Shut up, I begged, clutching my head. Please just shut up. What if I found out that she cheated on me? What if I found out that she kissed someone else? Would that be enough to end it? Is that a forgivable offense? What if she's kissing someone else right now? Shut the fuck up! I screamed suddenly, eyes bulging. Please just stop it! But the disease was hot tonight. It was horny. It was ready to bend me over and fuck me until I was completely spent. Oh my god, you're pathetic! I spat, pacing again. You have no reason to fear any of this! Get a fucking grip, man! She'll leave me. She would absolutely leave me. Especially once she saw this behavior. This psycho display of unjustified insecure anxiety. Who wouldn't? This wasn't something that someone should have to deal with. Especially when it was completely unwarranted. And that's what made it all the more frustrating. Because she was incredible. So why was my mind torturing me with this bullshit? There wasn't a red flag in sight, just the fluttering mast of my own sinking ship. Just turn it off, I pleaded with my mind. Just turn off and leave me alone. Please. They all cheated. They were all attention seekers. She was probably out somewhere right now, pawing drinks off some guy that wasn't me. But I would never know. Not until it was too late. Isn't that what others had done? Isn't that what they all did? Leave me alone! I screamed, head splitting. She's not like that and you fucking know it! And I fell to my knees. Gasping tears formed in the corners of my eyes. I could practically hear my mind laughing at me. And why shouldn't it? It was crushing me. This wasn't a battle, this was a mental slaughtering. I was so deeply afraid and ashamed of myself. Why couldn't I stop? These were the worries of a child, an insecure little boy, a horribly conditioned little boy, one who saw a belt and thought pain instead of pants, and my fingers dug into my skull, tore at it and clawed at it. I wanted to text her so bad. I turned my phone off. Nothing good would come of it. I needed to learn to deal with the shit on my own. If I reached out to her, my fears would be obvious. She didn't deserve to see that. I had constructed these fears, and I needed to learn how to tear them down on my own. There's no reason to be afraid of shadows you project on the wall. You can see your hands, you can see the shapes that they're making. You know the shadows are your own doing. You know that they're not really the monsters your fingers contort them to be. And yet, they terrified me. And I clutched my face, pain flaring behind my eyes, like they were filling up with something. Peace swirled through me like a fuzzy mist. I had seen her earlier today. Sophia. She always calmed me, consumed me, filled me with confidence. She pushed away the tears, and I knew that she wouldn't be back for a couple days. She had the power to do that. And I prayed that one day, mercifully, she'd have the power to destroy that part of me. I knew that was on me, though. Only I could rid myself of this staggering anxiety that assaulted me on an almost daily basis. The irrational, intrusive bullshit that plucked and picked at my mind without an ounce of evidence or fact. And some days I wondered if I'd be happier if I were single again. And without fail, the thought made me want to vomit. I rolled over on my bed and I checked the clock. It was almost midnight. And I was tired. Tired and thankful I was being spared the onslaught of paranoia tonight. I would sleep well, just like I always did when I got to see her. And I closed my eyes and I pictured her face. Her beautiful, perfect face. The way that she smiled. The way that she smiled at me. There was such a care and kindness in the way that she did that. That special smile reserved just for me. How could I fear against something so pure and so true? Because you're a lunatic, I muttered, feeling sleep approach. And you have bags and bags of shit clogging your stupid mind. Just the thought of all that, all the trauma that I had gone through in my life made me wince. And my face burned, and I felt pressure behind my eyes, like they were filling up with something. I knew it was going to be a bad day. I could feel it in the back of my throat as soon as my alarm clock went off. I sat up in bed, rubbed my eyes, and already felt a weight in my chest. My mind buzzed, like it had been preparing for my awakening with great anticipation. I tried to block everything out, if only for a moment, if only so that I could scrub my surroundings into focus. Did Sophia even like me? Maybe she was just using me to get over something. Maybe when I wasn't around, she had a completely separate life. One that I wasn't even part of or even aware of. Maybe she laughed at me with her friends. The fragile, emotionally unsettled loser. Oh my God, please don't start, I begged weakly. Don't start with this shit already. It was my day off. I wouldn't even have a distraction today. I looked over at my alarm clock. Why had I set the stupid thing? Habit? I wanted to go back to sleep, but the furnace of thought was already roaring. And I slumped back down onto my pillow, and I closed my eyes. Why was this starting already? Why did I wake up like this? You're pathetic. You have a perfect girlfriend who loves you to death, and you spend half your time wondering if it's going to go to hell. Is that what you want? Is that how you want to remember your time together in these early months? Why don't you fucking man up and grow a goddamn pair and stop being such a weepy-eyed little bitch? How about that? Can you handle that, Cupcake? You fucking fragile flower, you? Jesus, why don't you write it all down in your little diary so you don't forget, yeah? Why don't you write a poem about how you're sad and how you feel? Then you can mail it to Fuck Offville, where all the emotional wrecks go. They can start building you a house, and you can move there. You weak, pathetic, frowny-faced fuck. Christ. I mean, what is wrong with you? You know what? You do deserve to be alone. You don't deserve her. You don't deserve anything. Fuck you. Yeah, I said it. Fuck you. Why don't you kill yourself? Spare the world your little sad bitch tears and just fucking kill yourself. You fucking walk into the bathroom and you slit your wrists open. What a cliched piece of shit that'd be, huh? The abused disaster finally ends it in a dramatic bloodbath. It's almost hilarious if it wasn't so fucking disgusting. Christ, are you crying? Are you fucking crying? Get a grip on yourself. I mean, Jesus H. Harold, you think your crying is going to fix your shit? You think your sniveling little bitch fucking tears are going to make things better? Go fucking die. How can you stand yourself? You have so many good things going for you, and you're fucking curled up here crying over some shit that you made up? You, sir, are insane, unwell, weak-willed, and fucking useless to everyone. Why are you still in bed? Get the fuck up, go to the fucking bathroom, look yourself in the mirror, and fucking say goodbye! I clutched my head. The pain was overwhelming. I couldn't breathe. My eyes burned, like they were filling up with something. Sophia was on a business trip. She was gone for 3 days and I was dying. I sat in my car, face in my hands, and I tried to steady myself. Work was over for the day. It was just me now. Me in my empty, quiet apartment, alone with my thoughts. My cancerous thoughts. As usual, my mind was racing. It pummeled me from all sides with every possible scenario. Every awful, terrible fear that I had. I knew it was self-made. I knew it was all in my head. I knew it was just all my cruel imagination. So why couldn't I control it? Why the hell was I so powerless against it? I thought again about all the horrible shit that I had gone through in my younger years. I thought about all of the malicious cunts that I had dated and all the terrible abusive shit that they had put me through. I thought about how they used to make me feel. About the things that they'd say to me. I thought about how they would leave me for days when things got bad. How they'd come back in someone else's clothes. And about how they'd lie to my face and expect me to just eat their shit. Oh, and I did. Christ, did I ever. I thought about how they'd throw things at me, scream, hit me, spit at me, laugh at me. Curled my fists at the thought. It was a goddamned miracle that I didn't kill those fucking animals. You know they made you like this, I muttered. You know you're afraid because of them. Just saying it out loud helped a little. Don't let them ruin this amazing thing that you have. Sophia doesn't deserve that. You don't deserve that. Don't let them control your future because of what they did to you in the past. Fuck them, right? Yeah. Fuck them. I got out of my car and I walked inside, feeling slightly better. As the door closed behind me and I tossed my keys to the counter, and I felt my phone buzz. A text message, and I pulled it out and I saw that it was a text from Sophia. Smiling, I opened it. It read, "That's hilarious. I'm looking forward to seeing it. See you soon." Confused, I responded, "Looking forward to what? You coming home earlier?" I grinned at the thought. What a wonderful surprise that would be. New message, and I opened it. "Oops, sorry, babe. I sent that to you by accident. Love you." And I stared at the screen, feeling my heart sink into my stomach. Who was this? Who had this been intended for? Who was she meeting up with? And claws closed over my mind. "No. Stop it," I said quietly. "Don't start. It's probably just a work friend and they're getting a drink together or something. No harm. It might not even be a guy. And even if it is, who cares? People do that all the time, right? Nothing weird or suspicious about that. I trust her." But did I trust the person that she was meeting? Sophia was an extremely attractive woman. Men were drawn to her without fail. Not only was she beautiful, but she was fun and smart and loved to talk to people. What if this guy started pumping drinks to her? What if she started drunkenly flirting with him? A hand here, a look there, a whisper, a chuckle, a kiss on the cheek. "Stop it!" I screamed, roared, throwing my phone across the room. I don't want to be like this, so please just fucking stop it! God damn it! Please! My head ached. My vision spun, and there was an awful pressure behind my eyes. Like they were filling up with something. She's probably going to flirt with him. Why not? You're not there to see it. What's the harm in a little flirting? It doesn't have to mean anything. Until it does, until she's leaving you for him. Isn't that what they all do? Every man, woman, and piece of shit that infects this world. They're all just a bunch of slimy, disgusting, slithering monsters. A conglomeration of selfish, blood-sucking vampires that are out to drain anyone who gets near to them. They bring you in, hug you close, and then they sink their teeth into you. But you won't know it until you're almost dead, until your blood is almost gone, until you see their fangs and you know it's too late. That's not what I think! I howled. Stop thinking that! I don't want this! Just go away! Fuck you, you pathetic pussy. You can't handle your own thoughts. Fuck off! I screamed, and I suddenly slammed my face into the wall, hard, bringing tears. It was just enough to falter the flow of the poison, if only for a moment. But it came back. It always came back. Why can't you be like everyone else? Why can't you think rationally like everyone else? Why can't you just be happy? Why do you overthink fucking everything? Why can't you get over your own bullshit? The fuck is wrong with you? Shut up! And I slammed my face into the wall once more. And I tasted blood on my tongue as my nose bounced off the hard surface. The shocking pain brought tears, and I felt them overflow and spill down onto my cheeks. And that was all it took. And I slumped down onto the floor and I covered my face with my hands. I cried, shoulders shaking, defeated, broken, empty, and alone. I was so deeply ashamed of myself that I wanted to die. I just wanted to fucking die and empty myself of this vicious hell. It didn't deserve anyone. I didn't deserve happiness. How can anyone be expected to put up with this circus of madness? This insecure, wrecked, sniveling pile of flesh? Cries crawled from my throat and I curled up onto the floor, unable to stop. It was all so meaningless. I would never get any better. This would never end. I had been molded into this pathetic excuse of a person, and there was no escaping it. I couldn't fix myself. I couldn't change the way that I thought. I could only cope and cope and cope until I couldn't cope any longer. There was an end to this road, and that end was dark and full of death. Fuck this, I wept, crawling to my knees. I wiped my eyes miserably and I staggered into the bathroom. My whimpers echoed off the tile and filled my head, a reminder of what a weak, hopeless human being I was. I reached for the medicine cabinet and I retrieved my razor. I ripped the plastic head off and I held up the slim blade. I stared at it. And then I stared past it, into the mirror, into my own eyes, and horror ripped through me like a bullet. What? What the fuck? I sputtered, leaning towards the mirror. The whites of my eyes had gone completely black. My irises glowed gold. Specks of the same gold slithered through the midnight scleras. What is happening to me? I croaked, pulling my eyelid up to examine the terrifying transformation. I rolled my eyes into their sockets to examine the change. Black and gold. Forever black and gold. I raised a finger and I pressed it against the bags beneath my eyes. I winced and I recoiled, pain shuddering through me. There was an immense pressure around my eyes, the skin tight and pregnant with fluid. I blinked at my reflection. My golden eyes swallowed around a mouthful of ebony. I looked down at the razor blade in my hand, and I gingerly prodded the skin around my eyes with the other hand. Something was there. Something was beneath the flesh, And slowly I raised the razor to my face and I placed the blade beneath my left eye. And slowly I began to part the skin. I moaned painfully as fluid began to release. Thick, tar-like ooze dribbled down my cheek as I separated the skin. Hesitantly, I dabbed it with my finger and I raised it to my eyes. And I almost screamed. The fluid rose up on my finger and squirmed with life of its own. And then it began to form and grow. It puffed up like it was a storm cloud filled with rain. Panicking, I flicked it away onto the bathtub. It landed with a splat and it continued to form. When it reached the size of a baseball, it stopped expanding. I got down on my knees, eyes still oozing, and watched. The black orb split along the top and suddenly the alien mass began to whisper.
Kill me. Please. Kill me.
I recoiled and I stood back up. What the fuck? I looked into the mirror. The flow of oily pus had stopped. And to my amazement, I felt a little better. I switched hands and I brought the razor up to my other eye, and slowly I began to carve out the flesh around the other socket. More pus vomited from the cut, a gurgling flow that I caught in my hand and I placed it into the bathtub. The mass formed once more and grew bigger. More mouths formed and began to whisper.
Useless. Kill me. Pathetic. Sad. Very sad.
My voice grated across my teeth. Are you the one that's been torturing me?
No good. Alone. Isolated. Sabotage.
Shut up, I cried. Just shut the hell up.
Kill. End. Finish. Useless.
Shut up! I screamed, and I sliced the razor across the mass of foaming substance and it shuddered. A whimper escaped the many mouths. And that's when the idea bloomed in my exhausted mind. And I spun back to the mirror. Breathing heavily, I began to carve up my face. Ooze poured from a dozen different lacerations, and I collected it all. I gathered it off of my face, and I flung it into the bathtub, conjoined with the rest. And when I thought I had enough, I tossed the razor aside. The ruined flesh on my face burned fiercely, but I paid no mind to it. I chanced a single glance back into the mirror, and my glowing golden eyes stared back, but they weren't as bright as they used to be. And I got to my knees, and I plunged my hand into the goo. And then I began to shape it. First the legs, and then the arms, and the head. The shit was like putty, and when I finished, I stepped away. I watched the wriggling body, a golden flaked mass of pitch black darkness. It flopped and it called out to me, 100 odd mouths whispering poison and loathing. I cast my hatred down upon it. And then I went to the hardware store. I don't know how many hours had passed. I sat against the far wall of the bathroom, an array of blackened tools splayed out before me. I had started with the hammer, and then the pliers, and then the pickaxe. I had smashed, cut, stabbed, burned, and sliced and mutilated the abomination in my tub dozens of times over. And each time it died, I had revived the razor and emptied myself of the poison, and each time I had remolded the figure. And then I got to work once more. Sweat coated my body. My discarded shirt lay stained and soaked through onto the tile. My hair clung wetly to my forehead. I gasped down air. My muscles burned from the torture. Oh, how it had screamed. And slowly, weakly, I stood. I looked into the mirror one last time. I barely recognized myself beneath the mutilation. But my eyes were my own. Once again.